So here's the smartest path: become extremely confident in social interaction with other people, being magnetic, having people chase you, being able to close at a higher percentage. Whatever that means for you, here's how to have the core element of feeling comfortable in any interaction, being at ease so that you have the access to your full faculties, your full charisma, your full humor, etc. at all times. Because look, this is the core component of your performance in any social interaction. I see a lot of people out here on YouTube saying like, oh, you gotta say this line, or you gotta do this little thing, or you gotta... But all of those things are simply things that you can do externally to get something in return. But these are all strategies and lines because you're not able to come up with that shit in the moment. And the reason for that is this. I'll give you an example. Have you ever been to a party on Friday where, let's say it's a birthday of someone you know, and you go into that party and you walk in and, you know, people are saying hi to you and you're saying hi to people, right? People know you. People are like, hey man, like nice to see you, blah, blah, blah. And you're very charismatic. You're very funny there. All eyes are on you. And, you know, you have a great night, right? You feel like very funny, charismatic and all that. And then let's say that a week later or a month later, whatever it may be, you go to a very prestige venue or a very prestige party where somehow you got it. And you're surrounded by people that are very well known that you deem as to be above your social value. In that venue, you'd loan less people, your internal value, your confidence levels, and your comfort is lower, right? And so, because your belief changes in that venue because of different external stimuli, now you're not as funny, right? You're not as witty, you're not as confident, you're not as sharply just going up to someone without thinking about it, etc., etc. And you can ask yourself, why is that the case? Because you are literally still the same person as you were last Friday that you are in this venue. So the only thing that changed in those two instances is your level of comfort, meaning your level of confidence, because feeling confident is simply feeling very comfortable in a certain situation and with yourself and in social situation, and you're not feeling that there. And the reason for that is because your belief in yourself changed, right? Your belief in yourself there is lower than what it should be to be comfortable there. And the way to change that is honestly to let go of the paradigm where you see value in that way, right? Where you consciously, this is the first step. The presupposition that you consciously choose to see value and to allow yourself to feel the same way in any certain setting, right? In any interaction, in any group, etc. And the way to do that is to realize that, look, we all have this conscious idea of when am I able to be outgoing, be loud, be confident. And it really is based on a lot of superficial standards. And that comes from simple societal programming, right? Social conditioning that gives you these beliefs and gives you this attitude like, hey, you can only be loud if everybody likes you, if everybody knows you. And to an extent, that will always help, but it shouldn't be an absolute deal breaker if that's not the case yet. So what you can do, because as a baby, you were born extremely confident, but due to societal programming and due to early childhood events, you lost that energy, you lost that pure confidence that you were born with. Now you're walking around with a fear of rejection, and now you're walking around with a paradigm of thinking that has you have to be like the best, that says you have to be like the richest and the most handsome and all this shit in that room to be able to be very confident. And it might be different for you, like it might be not like fame for you, it might be like having to know a bunch of people for you, any of these things, but I guarantee that most of you watching this, you will have some form of conscious thinking pattern of like, how do I have most value in this situation? And you might be actually trying to up your value by thinking like, oh, well, I'm gonna have like the nice crib for the after party, so that's why I have value here, or I have the most money, or I have good connects here, or whatever it may be, right? Rationally trying to think yourself into value. And even though that can work, it's like a short-term band-aid on top of a very larger issue that is that in the first place need these types of conscious manifestations to be able to feel confident, right? And you want to step away from that paradigm to be able to feel just at ease. Now, it doesn't mean that you're like that, you're always going to feel at ease, but if you just keep reminding yourself of that, you'll be in the right, correct paradigm a lot more, and you'll start reinforcing that new pattern of thinking, or rather not thinking, a lot more. So the new pattern would be to realize like, oh, I have value just because I'm me, right? Just because of my personality. And there is no Bible, there is no book. Well, obviously there's a Bible, but there is not a book that says you need to have this much money, you need to look like this, blah, 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 then you're cool. There is no book like that. So it's very stupid to like think like that and to think that you need all your ducks in a row to have value and to be confident. Because anyone could go into any social gathering, whether it's a business meeting, a networking meeting, or a party, anyone could go in and just behave extremely confident and outgoing. Speak to everybody, speak in a way where they have respect for themselves, speak engaging, have humor, have charisma, all that, right? Just like you had on the Friday example before. You can actually also do that at some like Hollywood upsteam party, but most people don't allow themselves to do that. Let's say that you were at like upscale type of party venue, and let's say that you see some dude, right? Some fat guy that doesn't look like he's special, and he's just laughing with everybody. He's just having fun. He's joking with the girls. He's like, having a great time, and people are like giving him a lot of attention, and people are looking at him because that's how he behaves. He's behaving like he's a celebrity, or he's behaving like he has all this value. And probably what you're gonna be thinking then, and if you're honest with yourself, you probably admitted to yourself that you've done this in the past, you're probably thinking like, and I've done it too, by the way, that dude, what's up with him? Like, what does he do? What is he? You know what I mean? Is he famous, or, is he maybe like, some like hedge fund manager from New York, some billionaire, whatever? Or is he like, in the entertainment industry, like a big producer here? Like, you're probably gonna think those types of things. But actually, all those things, even if he was, still don't have to do with how he's behaving, right? He actually, let's say that this guy is nothing special, but he is just being like that. Well, the only thing that's going on there is it's just him. It's just his fucking personality. And it's just allowing him to be himself, even though he might not artificially and superficially measure up to the societal standards of the other people in the room, because he just doesn't play by that game. Big lesson in my life was learn to just play your own game, right? Stop playing by other people's rules, right? Because there is no general rule book. Like, one interesting thing to actually kind of dig that concept right into your subconscious mind is realize that a couple hundred years ago, fat girls were the hottest, and now skinny girls are the hottest. I mean, besides all those supersized models and all that bullshit, but let's be honest. The actual trait or the actual manifestation of the value proposition that people put out there, that changes with culture. It changes with time. And yes, you can absolutely say that due to evolutionary psychology, there is definitely a bunch of things that are like hardwired into us, right? So it is hardwired into this. A good jawline or something like that could be great for reproduction because it's good genes, etc., etc., etc. But it's not like that's the main thing. What's hardwired into us is to move towards value and status, because that increases our chance of survival. And so whatever means value and status, people will want to move towards that. But if you behave like someone who has value and status, people will move towards that too. Or if you have the potential of creating that value and status, people will move towards that too. One big hack, if you have a purpose in your life, if you have some goals, right, and you're working hard, you're watching these types of videos, you're probably going to achieve a lot. By the time I turned 21, I made my first kind of 150 grand a month. Actually, my 20th birthday, I believe. Either way, so I was doing that. That was like the external result that I was looking for ever since I was 18. From the time I was 18, I was already kind of behaving and walking around like I already had that, right? Like I already had a 7-figure company, etc. And that's really the game that you want to play, because if you behave like and walk around like that, if that frame is strong enough, if you have certainty in that, and the certainty should just come from the fact that you know that you can create anything that has come into your mind, or it wouldn't even come into your mind. If you build that certainty in yourself, then other people will buy into that frame. Other people will buy into that certainty. And then on a long enough time horizon, people are just gonna identify with your frame, and they're already gonna treat you like you are that person. It's the whole adage of like, act like a rock star and you'll be treated like a rock star. And I think my pool guy is right there behind me. But that's really the point here. So the confidence thing is the fastest path to confidence. Then you wanna realize like, okay, I can just start behaving like my ideal version of myself would behave. And I'll move towards that. I'll bring that into the present. Think of it as playing a character or whatever. That's just some training wheels that you put on. But you're gonna move towards that character, because the more times, the more reference experiences you have as being that ideal character now, the more that reinforces, and then at some point you fully merge with it. Think of it like this. This is the current you. This is the you that you want to be, or the completely confident version of yourself. It just comes closer and closer and closer and closer and closer with the more reference experiences that you get, and then it just merges into here and it becomes you. The first step really, even before starting that, is really admitting to yourself like, okay, there is more I can do. And you already admitted to that to yourself by clicking on this video, but there is more I can do confidence-wise. It is simply unacceptable to not be extremely confident as man, especially in this world nowadays, right? Any day for that matter. You can't just be walking around insecure, not even having the nuts to go up to a stranger, right? You just need to be confident. A lot of people will not be that because of social media and all these other ways that you can meet people nowadays and whatever. All of that is just using little crutches and relying on that. Bringing it back to the point that I was making is like, the first thing you're gonna have to do, gents, is to admit to yourself that there's more left in the tank. And that's gonna be hard because your ego is gonna wanna fight against that, right? Because of various reasons. Because if once you admit that, now there's work to do. Now there's more discomfort to endure, right? But on the other side of that discomfort is gonna be way more reward, right? So that's what you wanna focus on. But your ego's not gonna wanna do that because it's painful in the short term to admit like, hey, I'm not as good as I wanna be. Right here on the whiteboard are a few steps laid out. And these steps, I went through them with a client of mine, did a session with this guy. And he didn't want to admit that there was more left in the tank for him confidence-wise. And that he could be playing at a higher level even socially, right? Which he did want. And I told him, listen, you're at a 7 right now, you could be at a 10. But he really had to admit it to himself first because he didn't want to. He was like kind of delusional in it. And that was just what he wanted to be. But then obviously, once he admitted that, we could go through the process and now you can see like, okay, I can actually move him. So once you do that, and then you take that first step into like realizing like, hey, you can let go of all the societal standards. Like that's just your conscious mind trying to rationalize. You don't need that actually. You can just step into it already with letting go of those thoughts. Because listen, you are not your thoughts. The reason you're having those types of thoughts is simply because you've been programmed by commercials, by all this shit that you're not good enough right now until X. Because that is the best marketing ever. Because if you continuously tell someone, hey, you're not good enough until you get the new iPhone or whatever, and then because you program one person like that, they're gonna also be like that to other people. Now, pain is a bigger motivator than pleasure. So now, all the people in the world, due to society, peer pressured into buying the new iPhone. Now, I'm not saying that's the only reason people buy iPhones. I'm not saying that iPhones are great, but you get the point. Also with new shoes, right, that pop out. For example, if you watch a rapper interview, right, they'll say like, yeah, the reason I really wanted to make them a lot of money because I wanted them new kicks too, right? Other kids were laughing at me that I had old shoes, whatever. Big drive motivation. You want to step out of, you can use it as motivation, but you want to step out of the frame of like, hey, I need to tick these boxes for me to be good enough and to feel cool and to feel confident. You can still go and do those things. I absolutely do so myself, right? As you can probably see, a nice villa, I do nice things, have a cool Instagram, whatever it may be, right? By the way, if you want to connect with me on Instagram, shoot me a DM. Ask me any question, I respond to these as of right now. So it's @BoydHook, pop it in the screen, my editor. That's really what it's about. That's step 2, right? It's like a shifting frame of mind so that you don't really need to have all of these factors. Because the problem is, guys, that things can be taken away from you. Even abilities can be taken away from you. Even if you're like the best runner in the world and that's your whole identity, that's what you base your whole confidence on and self-worth. If you lose your fucking legs, it's going to be an issue. Your confidence is really based on who you are as a person. Also, what intentions you bring, right? If I know I have just the intention of leveling other people around me up, then I know I'm coming from good intentions, right? I can bring confidence, get confidence out of that. Or I can get confidence out of the fact that I know that I'm ambitious and I know all the value that I'm gonna create, and everybody that's on my team will benefit highly and have already benefited extremely highly from being on my team early, right? It's like, think of yourself as the best goddamn Bitcoin stock, because if people bet on you now, they're gonna win that fucking lottery ticket, right? You should be feeling, whenever you go and speak to a person, you should be feeling like you have a winning lottery ticket of 10, 100, $1 billion motherfucking dollars, and you're about to give that to someone for free. You're about to give someone the free ticket. If you really had that, would you have any fucking anxiety about going up and speaking to someone? Because you knew how much value you would give to them, right? You might still be a little bit like, a little bit anxious about like just going up if you've never done it. But like, generally speaking, you're gonna be pretty much just fine with doing that because you know, dude, I have literally $1 billion in my hand that I'm about to give you, right? And you need to have that belief system because that'll change everything for you. When you're like trying to network with a person or when you're trying to create a business partnership, the amount of percentage that you get in the company is only gonna come down to obviously the value proposition, but largely gonna come down to how much value you place on yourself, right? And that's gonna communicate through automatically in that conversation. And so if you value yourself so much and you know that you have $1 billion in your pocket if you join this company, he's gonna feel that too. Because by the law of state transference, which just simply means that whatever you feel, they will feel. But if they feel something else stronger, they have more certainty in it, then you will feel what they feel. So if you have a lot of certainty that you have so much value to offer, then they will feel that. I'll give you a great example, not even about myself, but I heard an audio segment where Tony Robbins was negotiating his book deal. There's probably like a book deal for Money Master the Game or Unleash the Power Within, whatever, right? Some of his books. I remember that he asked for, I don't know the numbers, but like a way higher amount than what people normally ask. And he was just so goddamn certain in the fact that he provided so much value and that the book would crush it so much more than the other books that he just wouldn't budge. They came very close to his offer, like it was just a couple percentage off, and he still didn't do it. And ultimately, he got his deal. He got what he wanted, which was like 30% more than normal. Now, why was he able to do that? Obviously, Tony is like, you know, an absolute G when it comes to psychology and confidence, these types of things, and persuasion, also NLP, whatever. But the real reason is because he valued his own shit so much, himself and his project and his wisdom and his potential. He saw so much in that he's not just going to give himself away for free. He's not just going to give himself away for a lower amount. He's not just going to give himself away for the same amount. And this translates over into every single fucking area of your life. Because if you're approaching a girl, right, and you're trying to like meet her, and you value yourself lower, then you're going to put up with a whole lot of bullshit. Because you feel like, oh, that's okay because I don't bring that much to the table either. But if you value yourself so fucking highly and you know, like, I'm about to give you $1 billion ticket here. If you value me, if you're loyal to me and all that stuff, your life is about to be goddamn amazing. Right? And I'm not just talking about like financial shit and like cloud or whatever. That's like, it can be a part of it, right? Let's be also realistic here. But the main thing is like the emotional experience you can give her, right? The man that you are, the values you hold, the wisdom you have. Once again, the experience that you're gonna be able to give her emotionally, because that's really what your value is to a woman in the first place. It's not the things you have. It's the emotional experience you can give her when you are with her and also without her, right? That's really what creates that attraction and that value. And from there on, all those other things are bonuses that stack on top of each other. But regardless, besides that, if you're entering it from that high value frame, from that high class self-image, you're gonna get relationships on your terms. You're gonna get business deals on your terms, right? You're gonna get people chasing you. You're gonna have amazing best friends that actually value you, right? Because even if you're able, which you probably are, you're probably able to like get some good friends, girls. But even if you are, perhaps those relationships, like my client who I was talking about, his relationships and his dynamic within the relationships and the terms of the relationship was like a 7 out of 10. It was pretty good, but he wasn't valued enough to where they were treating him amazingly well. And I'm talking about various types of people, right? From dating to networking to friends. That is great, that's good, that's okay, it's comfortable. But do you really want to end off there? Or do you want to have it 10, right? Do you want to be treated like the goddamn king by everybody around you? That doesn't mean that you don't treat them well. You treat them amazing as well. But don't you want that to be reciprocated in the exact same way? So it's not just about meeting the best people, it's also about having the best relationships you could have with those people. Because the worst thing in the world is like relationship or whatever with someone that's amazing, but like they just don't treat you as well as they could, or they just don't treat you as well as someone else they date, or whatever it may be. You don't want to have that shit, my friend. So that's why you need to shift into this next level of confidence and self-value and identify yourself with the absolute future potential, the absolute thing that you're going, and set that motherfucker high, okay? Know that you're gonna be a billionaire, bro. Know that you're gonna do those types of big things. Know that that's where you're going, and identify with having that in the reality right now. Identify with the fact that you have that winning lottery ticket in your pocket right now, and that amount of value, and just know that anytime even that thought comes up in your mind, like, oh, this guy has more money, or this guy has more value that way, whatever, then just know in the back of your head, like, listen, I'm about to have so much more, right? Any fame, any money, any social connections, whatever, any physicality that someone else is able to create, you are able to create as well, right? As apart from physicality might be, you know, due to height difference as well. Probably you could, you know, in the future, but you get my point. Everything someone else is able to create or has created, you could create even better in the future. And it could be pretty damn soon if you're in high performance. So that's really the lesson I want to leave you with today. And from there on, it becomes, you know, simply continuously stepping into the discomfort, right? Using discomfort as a compass for success, and then not identifying with those thoughts about it, but simply identifying with the layer that witnesses those thoughts and just being okay with that and just saying to yourself, I'm still safe, right? I'm good, I'm chilling, right? Just keep stepping into discomfort, keep leveling yourself up. And once you do that, that'll also build even more and more certainty, right? Build even more and more pride in yourself. And that is an energy that is super contagious, super magnetic, right? If you wanna know, like, if you approach a person, like I've thought about it so much. What is really that X factor? What's really that fucking thing that makes people pull in, that makes people really like someone, makes people really view someone high value, right? And you cannot say that it's just looks or it's just clout or it's just social proof or whatever, but there is just plenty of examples of people that I've seen that don't have any of those things but still have that same effect on people. What it really comes down to is your self-value and how proud you are of yourself, right? The emotions you hold about yourself in that moment, and generally speaking, the general baseline of how you feel about yourself, and then being present enough to be in tune with that. And then that's like this magnetic energy that people feel. And at that point, you don't even have to say anything for people to be pulled in. And how do you create that? It's simply by matching your actions with the perception you have of how you should be, right? If these two things are so close, locked in like that, then you're feeling pretty damn good about yourself. You probably know right now that you're operating at, who knows, maybe 20% of your potential, maybe 10, maybe 50. And that is a silent killer, right? That is that background hum of like, I know I can do better. Doing better doesn't just mean like, oh, work harder. It also means making the uncomfortable choice, right? There's a reason that people who push themselves through that discomfort, people who do the hard things, that they get rewarded, right? That makes sense. And so if you do the hard things continuously, I tell you this, whatever is hardest for you to do is gonna give you the biggest reward. So if you can use that discomfort, that meter of how much do I not wanna do it, as your compass to actually go and do that, your life will transform you, I would believe. Because, once again, the biggest rewards lie behind the door of the biggest discomfort, right? The hardest door to open is always gonna have the biggest treasure right behind it. And so if you continuously make it a practice, make it a game. For the next week, next 21 days, make it a game to find all the heaviest doors you can find in your life. What is the top 3 things that I've been avoiding like the goddamn plague for the last week, month, years? Maybe even 10 years you've been avoiding this thing. If I would do that thing, how would I feel about doing that? Get some leverage on yourself, right? What kind of reward would be behind that door, right? And even if it's just the level of pride you would feel about yourself because you're so goddamn scared to do that. And then you open that door and you go there and you'll get so hooked on that dopamine that you want to open all these other doors and just keep doing that. And you'll build your self-pride, you'll build your self-esteem so much that now you're gonna feel so much more worthy of attracting so much a higher level of success because you know that you're not fucking lying to yourself. You know that you're not fronting. You know that you're actually tapping into your full potential and capacity. And for that reason, you deserve now more. Because you don't get what you want in life. You get what you think you deserve. You don't get what you deserve, what you think you deserve. And how to think yourself into deserving more is not just by shouting affirmations in the mirror. It's by opening the doors that you don't want to open, stepping into the discomfort that you don't want to step into, admitting to yourself where you still have room to grow, where you still have areas to win in, and doing those things. Because that allows you to move forward, that allows you to grow. And the universe and life, it just wants you to grow, my friend. It just wants you to contribute, to make an impact, because that's ultimately what's gonna grow the whole world, right? What's gonna grow life. Because life supports life. That just makes sense. Look at the world, look how it was created. Think about that. So if you're someone who supports growing that, developing that, living a positive impact, obviously you're gonna be supported by life. But mostly, you're gonna be supported by yourself and your own subconscious. Because I can tell you this, your subconscious is always watching. And if you are lying to yourself, cutting corners and shit like that, you're only yourself over. Nobody else cares. You're the only person who really cares about your own success and happiness and all that. Not even your mom is gonna care as much about it as you do. How can you ever be a good friend to someone else if you're yourself over? The best friend that you could possibly have in the world is yourself. And if you're not a good friend to yourself, then how can you expect other people to be good friends to you or you to be good friends to other people? So focus on yourself, focus on the shit that you know you need to do, and think to yourself this, what percentage of my potential have I been operating at? And what are 3 things that I could do today, right now, after stopping this video, that would resemble that level of potential being fulfilled by me? And then do those things and then make it a fucking habit that you daily write out 1 to 3 things that you could do that day that would be at 100% potential capacity, right? That would resemble you being in line with 100% of your potential. And then you'll just go like a goddamn rocket, right? Because you're gonna get hooked on that. You're gonna feel a reward and a reward and a reward every time you do it, right? Self-pride. And also at some point, the external rewards are gonna start coming in, more money, better relationships, more happiness, whatever it may be, right? And then you're just on a massive upwards trajectory to success, to pride, to potential, and as the start of this video said, to confidence.